Brothers, let me ask you something. When was the last time someone told you the truth about what it feels like to be a man in his 52nd or 62nd after divorce? Not the sugar-coated version. Not the cliches about moving on or finding someone new. I'm talking about the realities, the ones that hit you in the quiet hours of the night, the ones no counselor, no friend, not even your family warned you about. See, they told you that marriage was forever. They told you love would conquer all, but they didn't tell you the hardest truth, that betrayal is what happens when forever ends. They didn't tell you about courts, about loneliness, about what it feels like when the woman you gave decades to turns into a stranger. And after the dust settles, after the lawyers, the arguments, and the division of property, that's when the harsh realities show up. Not because you're weak, not because you failed, but because this is what it means to be an older man, standing in the wreckage, trying to rebuild. Today, I'm not here to sell you hope wrapped in lies. I'm here to give you a map, a clear, honest look at the 5 realities every divorced man over 50 must face whether he wants to or not. By the end of this conversation, you won't just hear truths that sting. You'll see why these realities, if you embrace them, can set you free. Because, brothers, life after divorce isn't the end. It's the beginning of peace, freedom, and solitude if you dare to face what's real. Stay with me. Before I share these 5 harsh realities, let me bring you the voices of real men who've lived them. One man, 62, wrote, "When my wife left, I thought my life was over. Nights where the hardest silence felt like a punishment. But slowly, I realized that silence was the best part. No more shouting. No more walking on eggshells. Just peace. Today, I wouldn't trade it for anything." Another, a retired divorced man at 58, said, "I lost my house, half my retirement, and friends who chose sides. At first, I thought I was broken. But when I moved into a small apartment, started painting again, and walked my dog every morning, I realized I hadn't lost myself. I had found myself again." And then there was a 70-year-old, betrayed after 30 years of marriage. She said she wasn't happy, and she left. It nearly killed me. But one day, sitting alone with my guitar, I realized something. Happiness was never hers to give me. It was mine to create. That moment changed everything. These aren't rare stories. They are the chorus of older men across the world. Different cities, different accents, but the same truth. Divorce strips you down, but in that stripping, you see who you are. And now, brothers, let's dive into the 5 harsh realities. Reality 1. Time is no longer on your side. When you're young, time feels like an ocean. Endless, vast. You tell yourself, "I'll fix my marriage later. I'll chase my dreams later. I'll take care of my health later." Because you believe there's always more later. In your 22nd and 32nd, you burn years in unhappy marriages. You drown yourself in jobs that don't feed your soul. You fight battles that don't matter because you think tomorrow is guaranteed. But then, something shifts. At 50, 60, 64, you feel it in your bones. The days move faster. Summers blur into winters. You attend more funerals than weddings. You see friends disappearing one by one. And suddenly you realize, time isn't an ocean anymore. It's a currency, and the balance is shrinking. For divorced men, this truth cuts even deeper. Because you can't get back the years you poured into a marriage that ended in betrayal. You can't rewind to your 40s and live them differently. You can't reclaim the hours you spent arguing, pleasing, or proving yourself to someone who no longer stands beside you. That reality can feel brutal. But here's where liberation begins. When you know time is short, you stop wasting it. You stop explaining yourself to people who never listened. You stop chasing women who drain your energy. You stop tolerating the endless drama that once robbed you of peace. Instead, you choose differently. You choose to spend time only where it multiplies your freedom and your peace. That could be an early morning by the water, casting a fishing line, an afternoon walk with no phone, no noise, just solitude, an evening spent reading, writing, or traveling, not because anyone asked you to, but because it fills you. Yes, the harsh reality is this: time is no longer on your side. But here's the hidden gift: you finally respect it, you finally protect it, you no longer hand it away cheaply, and that shift changes everything. Because once a man over 50 learns that his time is the most precious thing he owns, he no longer lives like a victim of the past. He lives like a guardian of the present. Brothers, time will never slow down again. But if you embrace its harshness, it will push you to choose wisely. It will force you to cut noise, reject chaos, and honor the one thing divorce gave you back: the right to spend your time on what truly matters. That is the first reality, and that is where freedom begins. Reality 2. Health is the new wealth. Ask any older man, and he'll tell you the same thing. Health after 50 isn't automatic, it's a fight. And for divorced men, that fight often feels harder. Years of stress take their toll. Sleepless nights during a crumbling marriage wear down the heart. Anxiety from arguments and betrayal shows up as lines etched deep into your face. For some, it's weight gained in silence. For others, it's blood pressure rising from battles in courtrooms. The harsh reality is this: you spent decades sacrificing your health for others. You worked long hours to provide. You skipped rest to keep the household afloat. You swallowed your own needs to avoid another argument. And in the end, the marriage still ended. The betrayal still came. The years are gone and your body carries the scars. But here's the shift, and it's a powerful one. Post-divorce, for the first time in decades, you get to build for yourself. Going to the gym isn't about impressing a wife who barely noticed anymore. It's about staying alive long enough to enjoy the freedom you've earned. Cooking healthy meals isn't about feeding a family that criticized you. It's about fueling your own clarity, your own strength. Taking a morning walk isn't about being productive. It's about breathing, moving, clearing your mind. Because, brothers, without health, there is no peace. There is no solitude. There is no liberation. What good is freedom if your body is too broken to taste it? Here's the truth: many men over 50 finally realize health is the new wealth. It's not money in the bank. It's energy in your veins. It's waking up without pain. It's having the strength to travel, to play with grandchildren, to chase passions you buried long ago. And it's not just about the body, it's about the spirit. Lifting weights rebuilds more than muscles. It rebuilds confidence. Eating clean reshapes more than your frame. It reshapes your outlook. Prayer, meditation, or stillness don't just calm the mind. They reconnect you with your soul. Yes, you're not 30 anymore. The harsh reality is that your body won't bounce back overnight. But the opportunity? You can still become the strongest version of yourself, physically, mentally, spiritually. Divorce may have stolen years, but it also handed you a second chance, a chance to stop destroying yourself for everyone else and start rebuilding yourself for you. And when you take it, when you choose health as your new wealth, you discover a freedom deeper than any courtroom could ever give you. Because true liberation isn't just living longer, it's living stronger. Reality 3. Family will not always be there. One of the cruelest realities divorced men face is this: family changes. Kids grow up, they move out. They chase their own dreams, their own families, their own lives. What once was a house full of noise becomes a quiet space where the phone doesn't ring as often. Siblings get busy with their own struggles. Parents, if they're still alive, fade with age. And slowly the circle shrinks. After divorce, this reality feels even sharper. Sometimes children take sides, whether they mean to or not. Sometimes the bitterness of a broken marriage bleeds into relationships you never wanted damaged. A son who doesn't visit as much. A daughter who looks at you with questions in her eyes you can't answer. And sometimes they carry wounds you can't fix, no matter how much you try. For men over 50, this can feel like the deepest cut of all. You gave decades to provide, to sacrifice, to build a family you thought would always be there. And now, when you're the one who needs support, you realize something painful. The family you sacrificed for isn't always there to catch you when you fall. That reality can crush a man if he lets it. But brothers, listen closely. This is where the line between loneliness and liberation is drawn. Loneliness whispers, "I'm incomplete without them. I can't be whole unless they're here." Liberation declares, "I bless them, I love them, but I will not depend on them for my peace." This doesn't mean cutting off love. You can still support your children. You can still open your arms when they need you. But you cannot let your entire sense of self crumble when they are absent. Because here's the truth: they will be absent sometimes, not because they don't care, but because life pulls them away. That's why you must build a life anchored not in others, but in yourself. That's where hobbies matter. That's where friendships matter. That's where faith and solitude become lifelines. A divorced father once told me, "At first, I sat by the phone waiting for my kids to call. Every day that they didn't, I sank deeper into despair. One day I realized I was teaching myself to be helpless. Now, I live my life. I travel, I paint, and when my kids call, I'm full of stories instead of silence." Brothers, the harsh reality is this: family won't always be there. But the hidden gift? You learn to be whole on your own. You learn to love them freely, without the desperate need for them to complete you. And in that shift from dependence to wholeness, you discover one of the greatest freedoms an older man can ever know: the ability to stand alone, without feeling lonely. Reality. 4. You don't need more stuff. You need less noise. Divorced men often walk away from a courtroom with less than they had before. A smaller house, fewer cars, sometimes a retirement account cut in half. At first it feels like devastation. Years of work gone in a signature. Possessions stripped away like trophies you'll never get back. But then if you sit in that emptiness long enough, you realize something shocking. None of it gave you peace anyway. That big house you worked yourself to exhaustion to afford, it was never a sanctuary. It was a stage for arguments, a roof over tension, a box filled with noise, that car sitting in the driveway. It never carried you closer to happiness. It just carried you to more obligations. That closet of clothes, it didn't cover the betrayal you endured. It didn't hide the silence between two people who stopped seeing each other. What men over 50 discover, sometimes painfully, sometimes with relief, is that freedom doesn't come from adding. It comes from subtracting. You don't need a 5-bedroom house. You need a room where you sleep in peace. You don't need a garage full of cars. You need a body healthy enough to walk, to move, to feel alive. You don't need endless possessions. You need mornings without demands, evenings without arguments, days without the weight of trying to prove your worth through things. Stuff doesn't heal betrayal, but silence does. Solitude does. Simplicity does. And here's the paradox. The men who thrive after divorce aren't the ones who manage to cling to the most possessions. They're the ones who let go. The ones who shed not only things but noise. Noise in the form of constant drama. Noise in the form of arguments over money. Noise in the form of relationships that cost more than they give. The harsh reality is this: you will lose things after divorce. That's almost guaranteed. But the hidden gift? You discover those things were never your life. Your life is not the square footage of your house. It's the peace you feel when you walk through the door. Your life is not the balance in your account. It's the clarity you have when you wake in the morning. Your life is not what you own. It's who you are when everything unnecessary is stripped away. Brothers, don't fear losing stuff. Fear losing yourself in the noise. Because once you trade possessions for peace, you'll understand the truth. Less isn't lack. Less is freedom. Reality 5. Your mindset will define everything. Here's the final and maybe the harshest reality. Your mindset will either make you bitter or it will set you free. Some divorced men never escape the loop. They replay the past like a broken record. She ruined me. She betrayed me. I wasted my best years. Every conversation circles back to the same pain. Every memory becomes a prison. These men live in loneliness, not because the world abandoned them, but because their own minds chained them there. Others face the very same story. They lost the same marriage. They endured the same betrayal. They woke up in the same empty house. But instead of replaying the loss, they rewrote the ending. They said, "I may have lost her, but I found myself. I may have lost a house, but I gained my peace. I may have been broken, but I am no longer living broken." These men live in liberation. Brothers, you cannot control betrayal. You cannot undo divorce. You cannot erase the years behind you. But you can control one thing: the story you tell yourself about it. You can call yourself a victim, or you can call yourself free. You can dwell in regret, or you can rise into peace. You can see solitude as punishment, or you can embrace it as the space where you finally rediscover your voice. At 50, 60, 64, mindset isn't just philosophy. It's survival. Because the truth is harsh. Your body will age. Your circle of friends will shrink. Opportunities will not come as easily as they once did. But your spirit? That remains yours to guard, yours to guide. Think about it. Two men the same age, in the same town, divorced on the same day. One wastes the next decade drinking, complaining, waiting for someone to rescue him. The other starts walking every morning, picks up a long-forgotten hobby, and learns to savor the silence. 10 years later, one man is bitter, broken, and alone. The other is free, at peace, and more alive than he was at 40. The difference was never luck. It was never money. It was mindset. The harsh reality is simple. Life will keep testing you. Loss will come. Health will falter. People will leave. But the hidden gift? You already carry the power to choose how you respond. You can see betrayal as the end or as the beginning of your freedom. You can see divorce as destruction or as the door to peace. You can see being alone as loneliness or as liberation. Brothers, mindset defines everything. Guard it, train it, protect it, because in the end, your mind will either be the cage that keeps you bitter or the key that sets you free. So, brothers, how do you live with these harsh realities without letting them crush you? The answer isn't in denying them, it's in shifting how you respond. Let me leave you with a few practical steps that turn survival into strength. First, guard your time. Time is the most brutal currency, and men over 50 know it better than anyone. You can't buy back years wasted in a marriage filled with betrayal, but you can choose today not to waste another hour. Stop explaining yourself to people who never listened. Stop chasing women who drain your energy. Spend your time where it multiplies your peace. A walk in solitude, a book that expands your mind, a conversation with someone who actually values you. Second, invest in health. Divorced men often neglect themselves for decades, pouring everything into others. But brothers, your body is the engine of your freedom. Treat it like your peace depends on it, because it does. Exercise not to impress anyone, but to stay alive. Cook not to please others, but to fuel your own clarity. Without health, solitude feels like prison. With health, it feels like liberation. Third, build inner wealth. We live in a world obsessed with possessions, but at this stage of life, what matters is what you carry inside. Hobbies that keep your hands busy, faith that steadies your heart, journaling that clears your mind. These aren't luxuries, they're survival tools. They transform loneliness into discovery and quiet into growth. Fourth, curate relationships. Not all connections are equal. Companionship should bring comfort, not chaos. Friendship should add peace, not pressure. Choose people who respect your solitude, who don't demand you trade freedom for drama. A small circle of real brothers is worth more than a crowd of shallow acquaintances. Fifth, protect your mindset. In the end, your mind is either your cage or your key. You can replay the story of loss, or you can rewrite it as liberation. Every day, choose the narrative that makes you stronger. Speak words of peace over yourself. Guard your thoughts the way you guard your home. Because if you lose your mindset, you lose everything. Brothers, the harsh realities of being a man after 50 will never change. Time moves fast. Health requires work. Family shifts. Possessions fade. But your response? That can change everything. You can surrender to bitterness, or you can rise into freedom. You can collapse in loneliness, or you can embrace solitude as strength. You can stay chained to betrayal, or you can walk forward into peace. The choice is yours. And at this stage of life, choosing wisely isn't just survival. It's the difference between merely existing and truly living. Brothers, let's be honest. Being a man at 60, at 64, it isn't easy. The world sees the wrinkles, the slower steps, maybe even the losses. What they don't see is the weight you've carried decades of marriage, the sting of betrayal, the silence after divorce, the harsh realities no one prepared you for. Time is shorter, health requires discipline, family shifts, possessions fade, and mindset becomes the battlefield where everything is won or lost. But here's the truth. These realities don't have to crush you. They can carve you into someone sharper, stronger, freer than you've ever been. Because what looks like loneliness to others can become liberation for you. You've spent years giving yourself away to jobs, to women, to expectations that never truly honored you. Now, you stand at a different edge of life, and you get to choose. Will you keep living chained to the past? Or will you embrace solitude, build new peace, and walk into the freedom only men over 50 can truly understand. You don't need more stuff. You don't need more noise. You don't even need everyone to stay. What you need, what you've always needed, is clarity. The clarity that comes when you guard your time, invest in your health, build inner wealth, curate real relationships, and protect your mindset above all. So don't call yourself finished. Don't call yourself broken. Call yourself free. Because the second half of life doesn't have to be smaller, it can be truer. And for divorced men, that might just be the greatest victory, discovering that even after everything you've lost, you still have everything that matters: your peace, your solitude, your liberation.